I've spent about 10 minutes trying to film this intro, but I'm making Krofe on Easter Sunday up in Bancroft. We're up in the middle of nowhere in the woods. I have a little baby turkey that's roasting, slow roasting in the oven right now for dinner, and I'm going to make these little traditional donuts. They're a bit of a process, as most things are with me, and they're delicious. Light, airy, fluffy donuts that you can stuff with jam or cream, and then you can, or just have them plain with a bit of sugar on top. They're absolutely awesome, and they have to be eaten within a very short period of time. Check out my t shirt. My friend Steve's show, Battle of the Number One Hits. He makes these t shirts, Better Now and Better Then. Anyway, you should check out his shows for sure. He does them online now that we're not allowed to meet in public anymore. But as soon as we're allowed to meet in public, that's one of the first shows I'm going to go to because it's so much fun. Anyway, wish me luck and come along with me making these donuts. They're really, really worth it.
Now, the beginning of this recipe is the only part that's sort of complicated, just because there are certain steps that need to be taken to make sure your dough comes together the way you want it to. I've got some hot water where I'm proofing the yeast. The milk has to be heated up as well till it's scalding, and then the butter gets melted in the hot milk. I'm using non-dairy milk here, but you can use whatever kind of milk you want. This one's just an oat milk, just because it's what I tend to use. It's what I have on hand. So I find substituting plant milk for regular milk doesn't really affect any of the recipes. It's usually only when I have to replace the fats, specifically butter. And if a recipe calls for like a heavy cream, it's hard to find substitutes for that, although there's ways around it, you know, especially with whipping cream. I've discovered coconut cream makes a really good whipping cream, and then you can make egg white, similar sort of egg white textures with chickpea liquid left over from the can. So when I use that with one of my vegan recipes, I'll definitely show you how it works and tell you how it tastes, because I haven't tasted it yet. So there you go. I forgot in the recipe at the beginning of this to write down lemon zest, as well as vanilla bean paste, which you'll see in a minute. But the lemon zest is amazing. It adds a really bright, sunny flavor to the donut, and you can taste a hint of it whenever you bite into one. It's really, really yummy. These eggs were being a pain in my ass. I had to like watch it for shells. So, and you'll love seeing me wash my hands like 18,000 times too. At least I'm keeping it clean. Here's the vanilla bean paste. You can use regular extract. A lot of the recipes called for rum. So if you want to use rum, go ahead. I don't have any rum, so there you have it. The yeast was done proofing. Now I'm going to add my other liquids. By this point, the milk and the water have cooled off enough that I can add eggs, basically, is what I'm looking at, because I don't want to make scrambled eggs at this point. So this is all of our fat, all of our flavoring. It's the beginnings of a beautiful, beautiful thing. The other thing about, you know, veganizing something like this is that I'd have a really, really hard time sort of substituting that really delicious fat from the eggs that are in this recipe. And since this recipe only calls for 3 eggs, I just, you know, considering I'm using 6 cups of flour, that's not really bad. It's a good trade-off is what I'm saying. I'm not a very strict vegan or vegetarian. I just try my best, and you know, I'll eat eggs, you know, and I'll use eggs in my baking. Ugh, I can't talk right now, sorry. I'm just talking over this because it's boring, otherwise it's just me mixing stuff. I have to tell you, I'm going to tell you this 7,000 times, but if you are a bread maker or any kind of baker at all, and you appreciate the feel of certain doughs, this dough was amazing. So at this point you want to mix it up so it's sort of combined, but it's still wet. It's stuck inside the bowl, And you're gonna let it rise for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'm gonna admit, I'm gonna tell you a little secret right now. I had to add, I let it rise twice. So I punched it down after a couple hours. And I added more yeast because I wasn't happy with how little it was rising. So I added a bit more yeast. I was worried that because we were up north, maybe it had something, the yeast wasn't rising the way I wanted it to. So I added a bit more yeast, like another teaspoon and a half, and I let it rise for another hour and a half or 2 hours. I went up for a hike, came back, and this is what I came back to. I'm kneading out all of the sort of puffiness in the dough, and again, I can't tell you, this dough is so beautiful, so elastic, so stretchy, so soft. It was so soft. I loved working with it. Now, traditionally, the donuts are rolled out on a cloth, on a floured cloth on a table. My table was full of crap. I didn't have a strudel cloth with me, and I didn't have a rolling pin. So I cut the dough in half and just did them in 2 different batches. And I used whatever I could use to cut the size of the donuts. Like you can use, obviously they have traditional kind of donut cutters and stuff. But I had this margarita glass, so I like the size. I make my Krofe a little bit small. Sort of like my cookies, I like them smaller. I think they're just cute. They're just like cute little balls of fried dough, and they're so delicious. This dough, as I said, was absolute magic to work with. If you're a baker, like I said, you would really, really enjoy this dough. So I've let it rise twice by now. I gotta let it rise one more time. So this is what I mean by this is kind of a huge commitment. Like if you want to have these donuts, you gotta like be committed to actually completing the task because it's gonna take a while. And I do not waste any of this dough. I rolled this guy up and then started with my second piece of dough, let that one rest. And then the leftovers of my second piece of dough, as you'll see, I was able to get another like 6 or 7 donuts. So almost 40 donuts I got out of it. And here we are, frying with just enough oil so that they don't sink to the bottom. I got some help from Greg for this part. It takes about 1 or 2 minutes per side for them to fry up till they're a nice golden brown.
Just fry the shit out of these. Just like the Lucamadas, pretty much. Yep. Good job, Greg. Greg helped me finish off all the donuts, and he's using this metal rod. It's a sort of a traditional way to flip the donuts. It's something his grandmother used to do. I was asking him tons of questions about how his grandmother made these donuts. All right, Greg.
Ready?
You ready? The pit. Here's the taste test.
Get ready? Grab one.
Okay. I thought we were gonna share.
No, we'll do it together.
Ready?
1, 2, 3. Mmm.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
Ho, ho, ho.
Oh,
Oh my God.
they're so beautiful.
Mmm.
Mmm. Mmm.
Oh. Oh my God.
These are gonna be all gone. All gone. Mmm.
Just the tip. There. I like to put a lot of custard in mine. And because these are so light and airy, they, all those little crevices and stuff will fill up with custard.
Look at it burst on this side.
Oh no! You want to try it? Here. You ready? Taste it. Oh!
Oh, wow. Wow.
Ooh.
So creamy.
It's like a Boston cream.
Mm-hmm.
putting blueberries on.